Okay, it looks like we've got the TikTok and YouTube streams going. All right, get it shared, and then, I suppose I should open up the guest queue. Hey. Oh, interesting. Okay, so I need to. Well, anything that exists in stories but not in reality is fictional, right? And God exists in stories but does not exist in reality. Therefore, God is fictional. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. But yeah, hopefully we can get some actual conversations this evening. Hey, good to see you as well, Moon. Thank you. So I'll probably bring this up a few times, but with the help of a couple people like Philo Dragon and Lupine, I was able to get get a Discord set up. Obviously, there aren't a lot of people in there because we just set it up today. But thank you so much to both Lupine and Philo Dragon for helping me get that set up. And now, what I'll probably do here is post a link to it in the chat and pin it if I can figure out how to do that. We'll see whether or not I have the mental capacity necessary to complete such a daunting task. Okay. All right. So that should work. And then one of those. All right. Yeah, so if you are 18 plus and have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God, please feel free to request up. Looks like we have a couple people requesting, so we'll try to get to our first conversation in just a moment here. I, for some reason, every single time forget that people typically request pretty quickly, and so I'm always acting like I have more time than I actually do to kind of get stuff set up on my side. So give me one quick second here. And yeah, we'll bring up our first guest. Hi, Nam. Are you at least 18?
Yeah, hello? Hello? Yeah.
Okay.
Hey,
What God do you
Jesus
believe in?
died for your sins, bro. He loves you.
Okay. And do you have what is the best
I believe
argument
in
or evidence that would
Jesus.
provide rational justification to believe in God?
Uh, the Dead Sea Scrolls.
And why would the Dead Sea Scrolls give us a reason
Yeah,
to
he
believe
died
in
for you,
God?
but you have to repent or you'll
Why
go
would the
to
Dead
hell.
Sea Scrolls give me a reason to believe in God?
Because they're original.
What do you
So
mean they're
repent.
original?
Every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess
Okay, so
that
you don't
Jesus
have
is
any
Lord.
argument or evidence? Your position is irrational?
Repent.
Is your position rational or
The
irrational?
devil has filled your head with lies,
Okay, well,
and
thanks for the
you need to be
concession that
prayed
your
for.
position is irrational. I gave you the every opportunity. You had the stage. It was your opportunity to give us reasons to believe in your God, and you chose not to use it. Did that link thing not work? The pinned, is it, what is it? Why does it say not approved? That's annoying. And it just goes away. All right, well, if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, please make sure that you are 18 plus and have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in the God you believe in. So we'll move on to Kevin. Hi, Kevin. Are you at least 18?
I am.
Okay. And what God do you believe in?
Yahweh and his son, Yeshua.
Okay. And what would you say is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in God?
Where are you getting your definition of rational?
Well, rational would just typically mean something like reasons responsive. I mean, I guess I'll get it from like the dictionary.
You guess?
Do you need me to look it up in the dictionary?
Well, you're asking some articulate question. I believe you should know what you're talking about here.
Yeah, I mean, rational means reasons responsive, right? That is, rational belief is a belief that is held for reasons, right? So I guess if we want to be pedantic about it, I'm looking for the doxastic justification for your theistic position. Is that better?
No, it's not. It's actually way more complicated because
Okay.
you have to tell me where you're getting that from.
Okay, so are you just here to like bitch about words, or do you want to actually
No,
have the
absolutely
conversation?
not.
Okay,
I
fantastic.
actually
So
did
what's the
want to
best
have a
argument or evidence
Wait,
that would provide rational
let me speak.
justification to believe in God?
Are you here just to scream over people?
I'm not screaming or anything. I'm asking you the
Yeah,
question
you
that
did.
you're trying to dodge. If you can't answer the question, then I'll just move on to the next person.
I
That's
will
fine.
happily answer your question
Great.
if you'll tell me where you got the word rational.
Fantastic. So we'll move on to the next person since that idiot wasn't able to engage. Semantic bullshit. That's my note for that one. So if you're in the guest queue, make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. I don't know precepts. Yep, I'm aware of the tag argument. And Lupine is exactly correct. I am very aware of how easy it is to destroy the precept or tag argument, however you want to put it. Well, we'll see if we can get the next person to connect. Maybe not. Bueller? Well, I guess we won't get to talk to Gerb tonight. Unfortunate. But luckily we've got some other people requesting. So again, if you're in the guest queue, the tag argument is the transcendental argument for God. So calling it tag argument is kind of redundant, but that's what it is. So yeah, it's the transcendental argument for God, and it basically says there's some transcendent thing that exists. Typically, they'll say something like truth or logic, like if truth exists, then God exists. Truth exists, therefore God exists. Or if knowledge exists, then God exists. If logic, whatever, they'll pick different transcendental properties and say that if that property exists, then God must also exist. And since that property exists, God exists. But they will never be able to defend that. Yeah, that is presup, Alicia. They're saying that's the tag argument. The tag argument is the argument that I just described. And presuppositionalism is saying that the tag argument works because you have to presuppose God's existence in order to be able to have access to logic or knowledge or truth or whatever transcendental property they're talking about. Oh, you're in the queue, so I guess I can educate you directly. Hopefully, as long as you're an adult and, can actually have a conversation. Hi, Alicia, are you? Oh, no, you can't. Okay, fair enough. I'm not surprised. Hi, personal account. Are you at least 18? Hello? Fair enough. Hi, Wave. Are you at least 18?
What's up, man? Oh, yeah.
Okay, and what God do you believe in?
I just say that I'm just like a theist. Just a theist.
Okay, but you believe in a mind that created the universe, like a personal ultimate foundation to reality?
Oh, yeah. I think it's more probable.
Okay,
Then,
and what
like,
would you say is the best
then-
argument or evidence that would provide rational justification for that position? I can't hear you if you're off the app. Oh, hey, wow. Thanks for the support, everybody. Holy shit. Queen Laquifa, I love when you support just so I can say your name. Lupine, KTM, I don't know. Probably just text prediction. 3 pips, Nick, Don, 3 pips, Lupine again. Thank you so much. Well, apparently, that guest did not actually want to talk. That's too bad. All right, so we'll see if anybody does. So if you're in the guest queue, hey, Poopman Jones, if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, yeehaw! Please make sure that you are 18 plus and have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Give me one quick second here. All right. Hi, Z-Dot, are you at least 18?
Yes, I'm 19.
Okay, what
And
God do you
say
believe
we
in?
should- I wanted to say.
What God do you believe in?
I believe in Jesus.
Okay, and what is the best argument or evidence that provides rational justification to believe in God?
I stand with most of your beliefs, but you're a fat fucking miserable loser who's trying to argue.
Oh,
You're a cunt.
cool. Sounds
You
great.
sounds a-
All right. So if you are in the guest queue or thinking about joining, please make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God.
Yo.
Hi, Cola. Are you at least 18?
Yeah.
Okay, and what God do you believe in?
God. What do you mean, what God do I believe in? God.
I mean, of all of the gods that people have believed in throughout history, which one do you believe in?
Talk normal? I'm talking normal. I believe in the God of... Well, the Trinity. I believe in the Trinity.
Okay, so you're just a Christian who's too cowardly to admit that you're Christian because you know how cringy and embarrassing it is to be a Christian?
You don't believe that the storyline is true, that there's 3 omnipotents?
So you're just a troll, right?
No, bro. I'm trying to talk to you here. God is not fiction, dude.
Okay, what's the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God?
Because he had to go to war with the devil, right?
Okay, that assumes that God exists. Obviously, we can't just assume that God exists. I'm asking you for the justification to believe in it. What's the justification to believe in a God?
War. Conflict.
Okay, so you don't actually want to answer the question? You don't actually want to have the conversation?
I just told you. It's like you're telling me what you want to hear, and then you're turning it off.
Yeah, because you're not answering the question. You're just saying a word. If I told you that no gods exist, and you asked me, well, how do you know that no gods exist? And I said, war. Would that give you a good reason to believe that there are no gods? Of course it wouldn't, because that would be a really stupid, shitty argument. Just like it's a stupid, shitty argument when you say it. So why don't you try to give a non-stupid, non-shitty argument? What would you say is a good argument or a piece of evidence that would provide justification to believe in a God?
I think the riots that probably spurred it out when God passed.
Okay, so again, you're just assuming that God exists. This is one last opportunity here. Do you have any argument or evidence that would provide justification to believe in a God or not?
Hold on, I tried to tell you that there were riots that happened. Why are you trying
Yeah,
to
I mean, that's just you said riots when God died. That obviously assumes that God is real. I'm not granting that, so you need to provide justification that God is real before we can get to that conversation. Do you have any justification to believe in a God, or are you just assuming it?
No, I feel like there was a factual reference when God said that he created this earth, you know? Something
Well, people wrote down in a book that God said he created the earth. Why should I believe that that's true?
Because maybe that's the justification itself.
That's not just okay. Well, clearly you aren't capable of having this kind of conversation, and it's to everyone's benefit, especially yours, for me to move on. If you are in the guest queue or thinking about joining, please make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Hi, Dwayne. I think that we actually had a decent conversation last time we talked, didn't we?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, because I remember you came up previously and you're an asshole, but I think last time it wasn't so bad. What?
We've went round and round a couple of times.
No, you were an asshole, and then the last time I think you were okay, and so I'm hoping that you can be okay again this time. What's a good argument or evidence that would provide justification to believe in a God?
Well, I mean, you gotta look at it like this. We're the only species on this earth that has things different. You know what I mean?
Nope, I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you're talking about.
Out of 15 million species on this planet, we're the only one.
And out of 15 million species on this planet, cheetahs are the only one that can run over 60 miles an hour, as far as I know. So cool. Like, what's the point?
But every species on this planet uses what we're talking about.
You're breaking up, and you sound like you're like got your you're moving your finger over and off of the microphone, so I can only hear half of what you're saying.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you a lot better. Are you drunk?
No.
No, it sounds like it. So why don't you try to give some coherent argument or evidence for why we should believe in a God?
We should believe in a God because God is love.
No. You realize that's circular, right?
What is your definition of love?
Do you have any reason to believe in God or no?
Yes.
Okay, so obviously we'll pretend you didn't say the stupid shit that you just said. Why don't you give an actual reason to believe in God?
God is love.
All right, so you clearly don't have anything. Maybe come back next time when you've had a little less to drink. If you are in the guest queue or thinking about joining, please make sure that you're 18 plus and have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in God. Okay. Ooh. So we'll bring up the next person. Hi, JM. Are you at least 18?
Yes.
Cool. And what God do you believe in?
Jesus.
Fantastic. What would you say is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God?
All right, so let me start with asking you this. So if you just went out into a field and you had a watch, right? You just saw a watch on the grass. How do you think the watch got there?
Okay. Do you know the difference between watches and universes? The
It's
important
not
difference that's relevant
Wait,
to
wait,
this
wait,
question?
Hey.
No, you
Hush,
don't
please.
fucking do that.
Well-
I'm asking you a question. This is a very simple argument that you're giving. You're giving a
what's the
dumb.
question? What's the
You're giving.
question? Hey,
You're giving the
whoa,
dumbest
calm down,
version of the
calm down.
teleological argument that exists. So
Calm
I'm
down,
trying to
calm
educate
down.
you.
Calm down. What was your
If you're
question?
going to talk to me like that, you can get the fuck out of
Sorry.
here.
Yeah, sorry. What's your question?
If you want to be treated with respect, then treat me with respect.
Okay, what's your question?
Okay. So you're
That
trying to
gonna ask
give.
me?
You're trying to give a dog shit kindergarten level version of the teleological argument. What I'm trying to explain to you or expose with a question is that there's a massive, important difference between watches and universes. When it comes to watches and paintings and cars and any other, buildings, any of the other things that your dumbass apologetics point to in this stupid argument, we have background information about all of those things. We know how they're created. We know exactly what needs to happen in order for a building to appear and to begin to exist. We know exactly what needs to happen in order for a watch or a phone to begin to exist because we have the background information about them. We've seen those things come into existence. We have direct experience. Now, the difference here is that none of those things apply to the universe. We don't have direct experience with universes coming into existence, so we can't apply the same intuitive understanding to the universe that we would apply to those other things that we have background information about. So what you need to do, so you have two things that you can do to move this conversation forward, JM, in a productive manner. So the two options that you have to move forward productively are to, one, demonstrate that I'm wrong and that we do have tons of background information on universes coming into existence, or admit that you don't have that demonstration and either leave or move on to a different argument.
Okay, this is my first argument. So I have another one. All right.
Okay, so I just want to make sure then what's happening is that you're conceding that argument didn't work, right?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, then you need to continue with that argument.
Yeah. Just let me talk. All right. So you're saying, okay, so we don't know how the universe came to be, is what you're saying, right?
I'm saying that we don't have the same kind of background information for how universes come into existence as we have for the other things that you would point to say when you encounter a watch or a building or a painting, you know that someone made it. We don't have the same kind of background information.
But how do you know that? Or how do you know that if you say you have a watch and then you have a universe, how do you know that because the only difference between a watch and a universe is the complexity of the item.
How many? No, no. The difference is the background information that we have about how they're created or how they come into existence. How many people are you aware of that have seen a universe come into existence from non-existence?
0.
Uh-huh. And I know of lots and lots of people who have seen watches come into existence from non-existence, right?
Yes.
So we have tons and tons of direct evidence and direct experience of how watches come into existence. We don't have that for the universe. So now what you need to do is either show that we have observed universes coming into existence, which would obviously contradict what you just said, or you need to admit that this is a stupid argument and we should move on to a different one.
Wow, okay. So I'm just gonna ask you this, all right?
No, don't ask me a question.
No, wait. Hey,
Don't.
hey.
No, you are not running the show here. I gave you your options on how we can move forward. I'm trying to stay linear so that we can be productive. So you have your options. Which of the options I presented to you do you want to pursue?
Hello?
Which of the options I presented to you do you want to pursue?
What are the options again?
You can either demonstrate that we do have the same kind of background information on how universes come into existence that we have for watches and paintings and buildings, or you can admit that that argument doesn't work and move on to a different one, or leave.
Yeah, I gotta go anyway.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. Wouldn't want to ever be honest as a theist. That would be terrifying. All right, so if you are in the guest queue or thinking about joining, please make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Hakimi, if you keep saying that in the chat, I'm just not going to let you in. I'll just move on. I'll skip you when I get to your part in the line. Hi, Landon, are you at least 18?
Yes.
Cool, and what God do you believe in?
So at this point, I'm not really sure which God I believe in. I just believe that there is a God, and that's one reason. And the reason is throughout all of human history, we haven't seen life become from nothing. Yes.
Yeah, nobody thinks that life came from nothing.
So that's
not an argument that you should be trying to argue, or that's not a position that you should try to argue against, because nobody holds that position. You should be trying to argue against positions that people actually hold.
I'm holding the position that
No, you're arguing against the position that life came from nothing, and I'm telling you that no one holds that position, so it's a waste of your time and mine to pretend that people hold that position and it's worthwhile to argue against. So, do you have an actual argument that you want to give, or do you just want to invent straw men to knock down to make yourself feel good?
No, I'm just telling you, the only reason I still believe there is a God, I don't subscribe to any religion at this point. I'd say I'm agnostic is the word, I believe. But
No, you're an atheist.
No?
I mean, if you
believe
don't...
there is a God.
Okay, you believe that there... Okay, so then you're a theist.
But I don't know what God, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so you're a theist.
Okay, so what I'm saying is the only bounds that I have to say that there is a God is that something cannot become of nothing, and that's the strongest.
Yeah, and nobody says something came from nothing except for people who believe in God. Unironically, the only people who believe that anything comes from nothing are theists. No atheists believe that something came from nothing. So if you're arguing against the position something comes from nothing, then you're arguing against theism. So what is an... So again... Okay, fair enough. I'm glad that he left. If you are in the guest queue or thinking about joining, please make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Thanks for the support, Paperclip. Appreciate it. Okay. So just to be clear to everybody, you'll notice that when somebody's actually giving an argument, I let them talk, right? If people are engaging, we can have a good conversation.
Hey, what up, brother?
Hi, are you at least 18?
Yeah,
And what God do you believe in?
I believe in theistic God.
Okay. Do you are you like a member of a religion, or does your God have a name or a book associated with it or anything like that?
I believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yeah.
I don't know what that was. What did you just say?
Allah.
Oh, okay. So you're Muslim?
Yeah, I'm Muslim.
Okay. And what would you say is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God?
One of the most rationalist, if you use your, deductive reasoning and logic, would be the idea of, there was an experiment that has been done by Oxford University, Born Believers, which they conducted an experiment on kids, which they used to, there was a fitra, a natural belief on a creator, right? A natural belief on something higher than them. And
That has
would
nothing to
be,
do with what is or isn't true. That just tells us that, if anything, that tells us something about our, what our instincts are. But our instincts don't tell us what is or isn't true. So what I'm asking for is some reason to believe in a God. Do you have that, or do you only have this
yeah, but
nonsense?
that's like an evidence, right? So I'm
No,
gonna
it's not
give you.
evidence. I just explained to you why it's not evidence. Can you repeat back to me what my position
Can
is?
you can you repeat why it's not evidence?
Okay, so you weren't listening?
Now I was listening, but I just got confused.
Okay. I need the background noise to stop. Are you able to
Okay.
stop that?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that if this study that you're referring to as actually real and had the results that you're saying it had, all that would tell us is that people instinctually believe in a God, or that children pick up God beliefs from their parents very early in their lives. That's all that tells us. Neither of those two things would give us any reason to believe in a God, so the study you're referring to couldn't possibly give us a reason to believe in a God. But what I'm asking for are reasons to believe in a God. So now that you know that study can't give that, what would be something that would provide a reason to believe in a God?
Yeah, but the
Hey, Lobes.
experiment was not. So the experiment was not done only on religious kids.
I don't
It
care.
was
I don't
also.
care. I don't care.
Yes, you don't care about the
Right, because I
Oxford
just explained
University
why it
kids.
doesn't matter. I just explained why it doesn't matter. Can you repeat back to me my explanation? Or were you not
Yeah,
paying
you said
attention again?
because it was only done on the
Nope, I didn't say that
religious
at all.
parents and
Nope,
those. That's
didn't
what you
say
said.
that. Nope, didn't say that. Clearly you weren't listening. I will tell you one more time, and if you again don't listen, I'm just going to drop you, okay?
No problem. Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that at best, all that study that you're referring to could show us is that either children quickly learn from their parents about their religious beliefs, or that maybe people have an instinctual reason to believe in gods, right? So neither of those things, neither instinctual reasons to believe in a god, nor children picking up these beliefs from their parents or their culture early, neither of those things would give us a reason to believe in a God, but I'm asking for reasons to believe in a God. So this is the last time that I'm going to ask you, is there any reason to believe in a God?
I would say the argument of contingency, an argument of
Oh, sure.
let's go an argument of contingency.
Fantastic. And what formulation of that argument do you want to present? I can write down the premises if that's what you're trying to do.
I want to write down the infinite regression. Yeah.
Okay, no, I just am asking you for the contingency argument that you're giving.
Yeah. So the argument would be, if everything is created by something, a necessary being, then the necessary being doesn't need to be created because that's the creator. So it's irrational to say, oh, who created the creator?
Being created. It's irrational to ask who created the creator. Okay, so this is the argument that you just gave. Let me throw it up on the screen here. This doesn't make any sense. Not only is this not a valid argument, it also doesn't demonstrate what you're supposed to be demonstrating. You're supposed to be giving an argument that concludes God exists, right? So let's just pretend that there's anything of substance here, and I'm going to ask you to support this premise. Everything is created by a necessary being. Go ahead and demonstrate that that's
When
true.
it comes to everything is created by necessary being, so I believe that something can never come from absolute nothingness. So
That has
therefore,
nothing to do with whether everything was created by a necessary being, so try again.
yeah, so that's the argument. It's impossible for me to use my logic and reason to say, oh, something came from absolute nothingness. So I can't understand, because my brain doesn't work. I'm on that point.
Okay. And do you see how this doesn't connect at all?
Oh.
Okay, so what you're saying here's the inference rule that you're giving. You're giving A, therefore B. That isn't the way that an argument works. That's like if I said, the grass is green, and I used logic to determine the grass is green, conclusion, God doesn't exist. That would be a really bad argument, right? Because the conclusion doesn't follow from the premises. That's what you've done up here. The conclusion doesn't follow from the premises. That means that it's invalid. So even if the premises were true, the conclusion wouldn't follow, and you're supposed to be giving an argument where the conclusion does follow. Do you understand?
So that's my argument, and there's a
Okay.
consciousness and other arguments too. If you don't
Yeah,
agree
you
with
don't.
it, I can't say anything about it.
You haven't given a valid argument yet. Do you have a valid argument that you can present?
Okay, the valid argument is: can something come from absolute nothingness?
That is a question, not an argument. What's your argument?
Oh, I'm asking you a question.
Yeah, you're supposed to be giving an argument. Asking a question is dodging your dialectical responsibility. What is the reason that we should believe in a God?
Yeah, I told you the argument of contingency and the argument.
Yeah, and you haven't given a contingency argument.
The argument of contingency is that everything that's been created by a necessary being.
Yeah, I understand. You're saying everything was created by a necessary being, and I asked you to support that point. Are you able to support that, or are you just going to keep asserting it?
So yeah. So the thing would be: can something come from absolute nothingness?
That's a question. That's not an argument. So try again.
That's the part of the argument.
Okay, so you don't actually want to present an argument? Is that what I'm understanding?
I did, but
you didn't present an argument. All you've done is assert your position over and over again. So I'm going to ask you one more time to present an argument, and if you respond with anything other than an argument or evidence, I'm just going to take it as a concession that you know God doesn't exist.
I can't say anything because your brain doesn't work on these kind of things. So
thank you for the concession that you know God doesn't exist. I appreciate it. Oh, criminy. You'd think that theists who apparently have reasons to believe in God could... I know, I'm so mad. I'm so mad. Grr. Thank you, everybody. Alan and Lobes and Mikey and I don't know if that's Gia or Gla or whatever that is. Poopman Jones, thank you, everybody, for the support. Paperclip, I really appreciate it. So if you are in the guest queue... Oh, hey, real quick before I bring up the next person. So based on a suggestion that I got from some people in the stream a couple nights ago, I went ahead and created a Discord server. There is a QR code that can get you into it, and then I also will post the link in the chat. So if you want to join the Discord server, you are welcome to do so. It's pretty new. Literally just set it up today with the help of Philodragon and Lupine. Oh, yeah, I'm like restricted right now. Somebody must have reported me earlier because they got mad at me for not being a theist. But yeah, if you would like to join the Discord, feel free to do so. Like I said, just got it started, so there's not a whole lot in there at the moment, but the goal is to build a community there, right? But it's not my intention to leave that up on... Oh, I should probably post it in the YouTube chat as well. Why not? Okay, so if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining... Oh. I guess I didn't know that there was a problem with where it was at. Is that any better? Okay. Okay, fantastic. I'll leave it up for a little bit in case anybody wants to get there. Thank you very much for the support, Atheist Cat and Apostate. I really appreciate it. Okay, so it looks like we can move on to the next guest here. Hopefully we can have a good conversation. Yeah, I agree, Lubine. Hi, Joe Schmo. Are you at least 18?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and what God do you believe in?
I believe in Jesus. I'm a
Great.
Christian.
Thanks for being
Okay.
honest and just saying it. What would you say is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God?
The best evidence that God exists is the Bible.
Okay.
It is a legacy.
Okay,
It is a schematic for man's life. Many of the things that are in it, we all will experience. It is a guide. It is
I believe I understand that you believe these things about the Bible, but what I'm asking, that's fine.
It's not a belief. I have faith in God.
That's fine. I'm just asking you for a reason to believe in a God, and I understand that you believe. Hold on, Joe. Joe, calm down.
Okay, I'm listening. I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you want me to treat you with respect, you need to do the same. I let you talk,
Absolutely.
and then I was trying to respond.
Man, you're a very intelligent
And you just
man.
did it again,
I'm gonna
Joe.
say that.
Joe, you need to
I'm
stop
sorry.
talking over me every time I start talking.
Cool.
Are you capable of letting me finish a sentence?
Certainly.
Okay, fantastic. So what you're saying is that the reason to believe in a God is because of the Bible. Now, my issue is that I'm aware that the Bible exists, and I'm aware of the claims in the Bible, but I don't know of any evidence supporting those claims or providing justification to think that those claims are true. That's what I'm looking for. Is there any reason why we should believe that the claims in the Bible about God and Jesus are true?
Well, if applied, they are effective.
Okay, that just means that they're useful, not that they're true. I'm asking for reasons to believe that they're true, not that they're useful.
If a book tells you how to take spark plugs out of a car, and you follow the directions and they work, isn't it true?
It might tell you how to, take the spark plugs out, but if the book that tells me how to take spark plugs out also makes a bunch of claims and says that, that the world is controlled by shape-shifting reptiles, even if the instructions on how to take my spark plugs out are correct, that doesn't mean that I should also believe the part about the world being run by shape-shifting reptiles. What you're saying is there may be useful or beneficial things. My microphone is way too hot. There may be useful or beneficial things in the Bible. That's fine. I'm not saying that's not possibly true. What I'm saying is that even if that is true, that doesn't give us reason to believe that the supernatural claims are true. So what are the reasons to believe that the supernatural claims in the Bible are true?
Well, there's a difference between supernatural and spiritual. Spiritual is within. Spiritual is...
That doesn't answer my question, Joe.
Well, supernatural is something you would experience outside
It still doesn't
of your
answer
body.
my question. That's fine. Why should I think that the spiritual and or supernatural claims in the Bible are true?
It's a good question. Can you tell me what you think? What do you mean by supernatural things in the Bible?
Things like there being a God, things like God creating the universe, things like Jesus resurrecting from the dead, things like Jesus performing miracles, things like prophecies supposedly being fulfilled. There are lots of supernatural claims in the Bible. The main one that I'm interested in is the claim that a God exists. Why should I think that claim is true?
Oh, good question. But I can't give that to you.
Okay.
Really?
Well, do you agree? Yeah. Do you agree that we should only believe things we have reasons to believe?
No, because I believe in hope.
Okay, so you think that it's okay to believe things that could be false, and you have no reason to think that they're true?
No, I don't believe that now.
No, I'm asking you, is it okay to believe things when you have no reason to think that they're true?
Well, like I said, I have reason to think that
that wasn't my question, Joe. Just answer the question, please.
No.
Okay, you agree that it's a bad thing to believe things without reasons, right?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. And so if you believe in God, you must have reasons to believe in God, right?
hmm
Okay, I'm just asking you for those reasons. So far, you haven't presented any.
Well, I told you that the things that
No, what you said is that the Bible was useful, and you talked about, like, we compared it to a book, an instructional book that tells you how to take the spark plugs out of your vehicle. Even if the spark plug instructions are correct, that doesn't mean that any other claim in the book is correct. If I write down a list of 10 things, and the first 9 things are all true, and then the last one is that I'm actually God and Jesus was a con artist, does the other 9 things on the list being true mean that it's also true that I'm God and Jesus was a con artist?
man, you're too smart for me.
Can you just answer the question,
Talk
please?
too fast. I mean, you something like a lawyer, but
Can you just answer the question, please?
I can't really answer it, man. You know, I'll just acquiesce for now. And thanks for letting me up.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I hope you have a good one.
I got to be prepared for you.
Yeah, you should definitely be prepared. Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that a book having true things doesn't mean that the other things are true. Okay, so if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, please make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Space Logic, are you at least 18?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, and what God do you believe in?
I'm a Christian.
Okay, and what would you say is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God?
So to believe in a God, you probably heard this before, but I just want to see your thoughts on it. But I would just use like a basic contingency argument.
Yeah, sure. Do you want to give the argument?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna. I mean, you probably heard it before, but basically just that everything that we currently observe is contingent in some way, so that there's a basically a causal chain of contingent things.
And you're using contingent in the sense of dependence and not the modal sense?
Yeah. Can you like tell me what that means really quick, or what you mean by that?
Sure. So in like modal logic, we would talk about the words necessary and contingent, meaning like necessary would mean something that couldn't fail to exist. It exists in all possible worlds. And then a contingent thing is a thing that could fail to exist. Now, there's a big difference between saying contingent meaning dependent versus saying contingent meaning could have failed to exist. Those are two very different senses of the word. So I'm just trying to be clear on which sense that you're using, so we're not equivocating and talking past each other because we're using different senses of the word.
Yeah, I would say something that couldn't fail to exist. Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying that everything that we observe is contingent.
Non-contingent. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Contingent. Yeah, that's what I meant.
All right.
Or that we currently know. So there's like a chain of explanations that we have to explain, and then it would go back to some kind of non-contingent thing, which we would describe as God.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what the logic is to get there.
Yeah, so like
just saying everything is contingent, therefore, or everything we observe is contingent, therefore God, that doesn't follow. So I just need the intermediate steps.
So to be more specific, right, there would be, you agree like contingent things need to be explained in some way, or they borrow power or some kind of like source, or originate from some kind of other source, correct?
No. So what you're doing right now is you're saying you're equivocating on the word contingency again. So you said that you were using it in the modal sense, but now you're clearly using it in the ontological dependent sense. So what I need you to do is to decide which way you're using the word contingent and stop flip-flopping between the two definitions.
Okay, then I'll just say the dependent sense then.
Okay, so we're talking about this dependence, not contingency, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I always viewed it as the same thing. So
yeah, they're not the same thing. That's okay. Why I tried to clarify that from the beginning. And I understand that it's hard when one word. I understand that it's hard when one word has two different meanings. I get it. Okay, so everything that we observe is ontologically dependent on something else. Okay, what's the rest of the argument from there?
Well, do you agree, right?
I'm just asking for the argument, and then we can.
Yeah, so they're dependent on other things. There's an infinite chain, can't be infinite, so it has to terminate in some capacity, and that termination would be like a non-contingent thing, so because it doesn't have to be explained.
So there cannot be an infinite chain of ontological dependence. Okay, but why should we think that it wouldn't be? So basically, what you've given so far, we could just conclude that there was some brute contingency. Do you understand what brute means, or brute dependence rather?
Like brute, like as in it doesn't need justification in itself, like a brute fact or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. No, you're saying that there has to be some necessary thing, but there could just be a
Yes.
brute contingency, like a brute thing that doesn't require further explanation. Like, I don't know.
So do you agree then that there's just like at least like a non-contingent thing?
No, what I'm saying is that, well, again, I don't know. I think we're both now going back and forth on how we're using that word, and it's getting frustrating. What I'm trying to say is that so here's what we've got so far from your argument. Everything that we observe is ontologically dependent on something else. There cannot be an infinite chain of ontological dependence. I'm just saying that this is all you've given, and then you tried to say, conclusion, what?
Well, do you
there
agree
is
so
a
far?
necessary being. But I'm saying is that this conclusion doesn't follow. So what you would need to do is like fix the argument so that the conclusion follows. You would want to say something like, every chain of contingent. Well, basically what you want to say is like, everything that is ontologically dependent must ultimately be grounded in something necessary. And then you could say,
And then I could say that, yeah.
there is a
I guess
necessary thing.
Yeah, I guess I just didn't have like the argument like downloaded.
Sure. So my problem is that what I think is going to happen is that so again, like, I mean, using the word necessary here, so what we actually want to say is ontologically independent. And so then it's going to be, there is an ontologically independent thing.
So what's the difference between saying necessary and ontologically independent?
Yeah, because ontological dependence is the one sense of contingency, and then necessity would be referring to the other kind of contingency, meaning could have failed to exist.
Okay.
So there are things.
I guess I kind of just view them as like it's just the same thing to me.
Yeah, they're not the same thing. That's what I'm trying to explain. Like, for example, there can be things that are ontologically dependent that could not have failed to exist. So it's possible to be contingent in the ontological dependent sense while also being necessary. So
what would be an example of that? Just curious. Like logic or something, like something metaphysical.
I just mean, like, let's say, for example, there is some cause that could not fail to exist, and that cause cannot fail to instantiate some effect, and now that effect is obviously ontologically dependent on the cause, but because it is always instantiated in every state of existence where the cause exists, and the cause exists in all state of existence, then that means that the effect also exists in all states of existence. So that would be an effect that is necessary in the sense that it couldn't fail to exist, but it's ontologically dependent.
Okay, so would your response to this be kind of like a determinist view of like
no,
essentially no? Okay,
no, that has nothing to do with what I'm saying.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that something can be ontologically dependent and also not able to fail to exist, right? Like, it's possible for something to be ontologically dependent and to also exist in all possible worlds. What you're trying to do is you're trying to conflate ontological dependence with being able to fail to exist. And I'm just trying to point out to you that those are different concepts. And that's why the first thing you'll remember when you brought up contingency, as soon as you started getting into the argument, I clarified what sense of contingency you're using, trying to avoid this exact confusion that we're dealing with right now.
Okay, no, I understand better now.
Okay.
Thanks for that.
Sure. So do you want to be talking about contingency in the sense of could have failed to exist, or do you want to be talking about contingency in the sense of ontological dependence?
Let's say ontological dependence.
Okay. So if we agree that there is an ontologically dependent thing, I'm just going to say, or I don't think that this argument necessarily gets us to an ontologically independent thing, but I do agree that there is at least one ontologically independent thing, and I don't know why we couldn't just say that it's the universe.
Well, I mean, from my understanding, I mean, wouldn't the universe be contingent because it's expanding?
No. What are you talking about?
I mean,
Why would that mean that
wouldn't
it?
make
Why would the expansion of the universe necessitate that it's ontologically dependent on something else?
Well, it would be dependent on like dark energy, which is expanding it, correct?
No, you could say that
No.
the expansion of the universe is ontologically dependent on something. That has nothing to do with whether the existence of the universe is ontologically dependent.
Okay, yeah, I guess that's fair. Well, there's like a second part to the argument where, whatever. So you would agree that there is at least one ontologically independent thing.
Yes.
Okay. The reason why I would say like this has to be a mind is because, for it to be fully dependent, it would have to be able to like act upon itself. So it couldn't just be like some kind of like factory, like the universe making factory or something.
Yeah,
Or
I'm
like,
not talking about that. We're saying that if the universe is ontologically independent, then obviously there doesn't have to be a universe making factory. There doesn't have to be any further explanation because there is nothing upon which the universe is dependent, right? So we don't have to like say how could the universe have been created, because that's assuming that the universe is dependent on something. Why should I think that the universe is dependent on something?
okay, no, I guess I see what you mean. I see what you mean.
Yeah, I think that this is just coming from the fact that you've been equivocating on contingency when you're thinking about this argument.
Yeah, I guess I haven't really like I haven't heard it this way. Like every time I run this argument, maybe I am just conflating the two. So I guess I'll just have to look more into it.
Yeah, I highly recommend that you do look into, because there are some decent contingency arguments. I think that they fail. So what you're going to want to look out for, do you know what the term modal collapse means?
No.
Okay. So when I was talking earlier about, the contingency in the either necessary or contingent sense, as in necessary being could not fail to exist and contingent being could have failed to exist. So that's using modal language. And what modal collapse is referring to is the idea that if contingent things are grounded in a necessary thing, then those contingent things actually aren't contingent, they're necessary. In the same way that I said earlier that there could be a cause that exists in all states of existence or all states of reality that produces an effect in any state of reality where it exists, therefore the effect exists in all states of reality. So in that sense, the cause would be necessary and the effect would be necessary as well. So my position is that I'm a necessitarian. I think that everything that exists is necessary and could not have failed to exist. So because I think that the universe is ontologically independent and doesn't depend on anything, and that it could not have failed to exist, I think that it is both independent and necessary. And because the state of existence in the universe, because the is determined by uniform dispositions of particles and fields and so forth, because those dispositions are consistent and uniform, I don't think that reality could have played out any differently than it has played out. That's my position.
Okay.
I certainly could be wrong about it. I'd be happy to be given reason to think that I'm wrong and to change my position on that. But that's where I stand currently. And what I was trying to talk about with modal collapse is, I think I did already explain that. Basically just saying that if you try to ground contingent things in a necessary thing, the contingent things are probably going to become necessary. And I can just give you the argument really quickly.
Sure. Go ahead.
Not because I think that you need to like engage with this right now, but I think that you're being good faith, and I think that this is something that you should be aware of while you go look into this, because I want you to look into this, and I want you to be as prepared as possible, because I'm hoping that you'll come back and give me a run for my money. So if we said that there is some, I don't know why I changed this. If we said that there was some cause, C, that is both necessary and sufficient to instantiate E, and sufficient to instantiate E just means it always brings about effect E, then that means that, so if cause C is necessary, and it always produces E, then that would mean that E is necessary, and then we would say that the cause is sufficient to instantiate E, and so then E becomes necessary. So this would be like, I actually think I gave you the wrong argument, because this is for like when people are being obtuse. What's the one that I really want to give? Okay, here. This is a better one. So if we said cause C is sufficient to instantiate effect E, if we stipulate that, then we would know that if C exists in a possible world, then E also exists in that possible world. And then if we stipulate that C exists in all possible worlds, we would have to conclude that E also exists in all possible worlds. So this would be the modal collapse of saying that if some aspect of God's existence or essence is enough to bring about the existence of the universe, and that aspect of God's essence or existence is necessary in that it exists in all possible states of reality, then that means that the universe also exists in all possible states of reality. And it is the theistic position that God is necessary and exists in all possible states of reality. So then the logical conclusion would be the universe is also necessary and exists in all possible states of reality. So we would end up with the universe being necessary, and then we would say, okay, well, Ogar believes in a necessary universe without adding the extra entity of a God, and Space Logic believes in a necessary universe but adds the extra entity of a God, and then on parsimony my view is just better.
On parsimony, no, that makes sense. I see.
So again, I'm not asking you to like give some like detailed response to this right now.
No,
I just want you to be aware of it.
I'll definitely have to look into it, but thank you. Thanks for educating and being good faith and stuff like that.
Likewise, right back to you.
We'll see if I can come back some other time if I get into it. So give you a follow.
I hope to see you in a week
thanks.
or two.
Thanks, man.
Take care. Well, fantastic conversation. Okay. Yeah, I agree. W for that guest. So I must have gotten reported earlier, and it has like throttled me out of the algorithm. So I am actually going to give the live a reset here, and I will be back shortly. Just give me a moment, and I will be right back. Should just take a 10 seconds. Okay. Every single time I forget that YouTube is still live while I'm doing that. Every single time. Okay. Well, hopefully we can get back in the algorithm and actually get some folks in here and have some good faith, productive conversations. Obviously, that's always the goal, and tonight is no exception. Maybe while people are populating in, I can go check on the Discord real quick. It sounded like maybe a couple people joined. Poop Fire 2. That sounds fun. Hopefully we'll get some folks in here. What do we got? And awesome. Cool. I'm just sitting here looking at the Discord. Got a few people join, which is awesome, and hopefully some more folks will want to join up, and we can kind of create a good community around trying to learn and grow together, right? I mean, that would be awesome. My intention then, just like a lot of other creators, my intention would be to create a private members only space in addition to the normal server, so that if you're like a super fan here on TikTok, or like if I ever set up stuff on YouTube to like join over there, then you can get access to, you know, my arguments or any of those kinds of things. I have lots of notes and syllogisms written down that I, you know, that I refer to during debates. And, you know, sometimes people want access to that kind of thing, and I'd be, you know, happy to provide that to the community. Obviously to the degree that it's useful. I don't know that anybody's really gonna, look it up. I mean, I have posted drum videos, but not on this channel, right? Like they're, it's like, you know, my music is out there. Oh yeah, the book recommendations tab is awesome. And I did go ahead and throw up a, oh, it still didn't do that. Oh, that's frustrating. I did go ahead and throw up a book in there, an intro. Oh, this motherfucker. All right, but yeah, if you are 18 plus and have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God, feel free to request up, and I'd be happy to have the conversation with you. That's certainly the goal here. We'll go ahead and do one of these. But yeah, thanks for sharing, folks, and tapping. I appreciate it. Hopefully that'll get us in the algorithm and bring some people in. If you're not 18, then do not request. Let's see if Preston can connect. Hi, Preston. Are you at least 18?
Yeah.
Okay. What God do you believe in?
Hey, do you remember me?
No, I don't.
Hey, you a big.
Okay. Cool. Do you want to have the conversation, or you just?
Nah, you a big.
Oh, okay. Have fun.
You a.
Yeah, I don't know why he was asking if I remembered him. I don't even have him in my notes. Now I will. Okay, so if you are in the guest queue or thinking about joining the guest queue, please make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. See if this person can load up. Hopefully they will. Bueller? Bueller? Okay. Clearly not connecting. So yeah, if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, please make sure you're 18 plus and have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide justification to believe in a God. We'll see if we can have a conversation with Benjamin. Hi, Benjamin. Are you at least 18? Okay. Clearly Benjamin didn't want to talk. Hi, Champagne. Are you at least 18?
Yeah, I'm 22.
Okay, that was a child. Thanks everybody for the support. Lupine, thank you very much. RFL Wellness Foundation, I appreciate it. Oh So Good Organics, that's awesome. Sincerely appreciate the support. And also thanks for the new followers, and yeah, definitely appreciate it. Thanks for the shares and the taps on the screen. Yeah, if you can, Slayer slaps Queen. I don't know. Not really a Slayer fan. Nowhere near brutal enough for my discerning tastes. But yeah, hey, thanks Skeptic Mode. Appreciate your support. Yeah, currently don't have anybody requesting. Hey, Wit, appreciate you. Currently don't have anybody requesting, at least not that I'm actually going to talk to. So if you are in the guest, or here in the chat, and you think you have some kind of argument or evidence, feel free to come up. Make sure that you're 18 plus and that you do actually have some kind of argument or evidence. So we'll see if Judicious Master is able to change my position.
Hey, hello?
Yeah, are you at least 18?
Yeah, I'm over 18.
Okay, what God do you believe in?
I don't believe in a specific God. I just believe in the creator.
Okay, like an ultimate personal foundation to reality?
What's the definition of God? We'll start there, because you said God, right?
Yeah, typically it would just be what I just said, a personal ultimate foundation to reality.
No, the definition of God is an all-powerful being. You can look this up.
I mean, that certainly is one aspect that people typically attribute to a God, but no, that's not the basic definition of a God. The basic definition is a personal ultimate foundation to reality, and then a lot of people will add qualities like being all good, all knowing, all powerful, those kinds of things. But yeah, so do you believe in a personal ultimate foundation to reality, like a mind that created the universe?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
And what's the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in God?
So you can't really prove the Big Bang, so therefore I would have to choose God over what you say, right? Because
okay,
there's
so what
no,
you're
like,
saying is that
evidence.
you don't like the scientific answer, therefore you get to make up an answer?
What's the scientific answer? Explain it.
Can you answer the question, please, instead of running away from it?
Well, I'm addressing what you said.
No, you're not addressing
didn't
what you
ask
said.
the
If you were
question.
addressing what I said, you would be answering the question that I asked you.
All right, what was the question, bro?
So you just weren't paying attention?
Yeah, you're so scared. Relax.
I'm scared? I'm scared of
Yeah.
somebody who can't even track the conversation
what was
well
the
enough to
question? What
answer a single question?
What was the question?
I'm just so terrified of somebody who isn't even able to track well enough to answer a single question. What I'm asking you is, because you're saying,
Oh, look, you don't even remember. You can't even keep track. Look at you. Oh, you're just confused looking up at the ceiling.
yeah.
That's what you just did to me. You need to relax, bro. Let's have a conversation.
So what you said is that you don't like the Big Bang, you don't believe in the Big Bang, therefore you get to make up an answer. I'm saying, yeah, so again, you just want to talk over me. Who's scared now? So what I'm saying is that it doesn't make sense. There is no logic, there's no reason to say that just because you don't like answer A, that answer B must be true. What I'm asking you for is the justification for the position that God exists, and saying I don't like some other explanation or some other idea isn't a
sorry.
reason to believe in the idea that you
No,
do
you're
like.
right.
So
I'll
what
answer.
is the reason to believe in a God?
Okay, so I would say human intelligence, and I don't really believe in the, not really believe, but I don't see the evidence for evolution being real.
I don't care about what you think. Okay, Judicious?
I didn't say think. I didn't say think.
Okay, you need to lock the fuck in. Talking about how you feel about or what you believe about
fuck
other
out your fat
positions.
ass. Who are you talking
Yeah,
to, bro?
exactly. So here's the thing. Saying I don't like some other explanation doesn't give you license to just make up an explanation, right? That's just not how it works. And when I pointed that out with one thing, what's his immediate response? To make the exact same mistake with another issue that I don't agree with this, therefore my answer must be right. Idiot who couldn't help but argue from incredulity. Okay, so if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, please make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Hi, Xavier, are you at least 18?
Yeah, I'm 21, and
Okay, well, call me back in 5 years when you're actually 18. I'm going to write that down. Xavier Child. All right. Let's hope we can actually talk to an adult. Yeah, fetus deletus or yeetus the fetus, either way. Not here to talk to children. No. Hi, Leah. Are you at least 18?
Hello?
Yeah, hi. Are you at least 18? 18?
Oh, yeah, I'm 43.
Okay, fantastic. I'm 40, so I'm right there with you. What God do you believe in?
I believe in Jesus Christ, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost.
I respect the hell out of the fact that you can just say what you believe in and don't try to run away from it like some of these other cowards. So what would you say is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in God?
He's just really presented himself in my life and presented miracles, and I've just seen things that he would only know. He's answered prayers that only I know that he's only heard. I really just come on here to tell you, man, that like I don't want to argue with you and try to prove any points or anything. I just pray he reveals himself to you and that you get the opportunity to see what I've seen.
Well, the problem that I have is that every person who believes in a God that who has personal experiences of some kind, they always credit those personal experiences to the God that they already believe in. No one ever has personal experiences and then comes to believe in a God that they, vehemently believe didn't exist previously. Now you may talk, you may see some people who like talk about like conversion stories or whatever, but I'm going to say that those people are already, people who already lived in a culture that gave them, cultural pressure to think that God was probably true, and then maybe they just weren't very devout, and then something happens in their life that makes them take it more seriously. I think that's typically what happens in those conversion stories, not that somebody actually went from not believing to believing, right?
No, I don't think it's that. I think that like I really like from a time when I was a kid, when I was born, like 2-3 years old, man. Seriously, I come from a very, very bad
But this isn't
background.
my point,
No,
Leah.
but what I'm
My
saying
point, Leah, is that if
he revealed himself to me
no,
is what I'm
Leah,
trying to tell you.
here's what I'm trying to get to, because it doesn't sound like you're understanding what I'm saying, and I'll just take that to be my fault. What I'm trying to say is that if I have you in front of me saying you've had personal experiences that lead you to believe that Jesus is God, and if there was a Muslim in front of me saying that they've had personal experiences that lead them to, believe with confidence that the Muslim religion is true, and I have a Hindu saying the same thing, and a Jewish person saying the same thing, and a Zoroastrian saying the same thing, and a Scientologist saying the same thing, and 50 other religions, or people from 50 different religions all saying the same thing. I had a personal experience, and it confirmed to me that my God is real. How do I tell the difference between them? How do I determine if any of them are actually correct about their interpretation of their personal experience?
And I respect that. I respect that because I've questioned the same thing. Like, I love everybody. And, like, I couldn't see if no matter what your belief is, thinking anything other than you as a human being. And that's why I come on here is to tell you that I can't make you believe, right? There's nothing
Okay,
that
so
I'm
you're
gonna
not actually
say,
going to respond to
I'm
what I
gonna
said?
speak it over you. Yeah, I am. I'm going to.
No. What you're doing right now is you're just preaching. This is not a platform to preach, okay? This is a debate platform, and I understand that you said you don't really want to have like a contentious debate. That's fine, but still the point here is to drive toward whether or not there's a reason to believe in a God. Whether you want to do that, with a formal syllogism or some kind of informal conversation, that either is fine, but that's the point, is to get to what is the reason to believe in a God. If you don't want to have that conversation, that's totally fine, but you don't belong here. So if you do want to be here and you want to have a conversation, you need to respond to what I actually said. So in order to respond to what I said, what you should be discussing is how I would tell the difference between all of those different believers who have different interpretations of their personal experiences. How would I determine which one of them, if any, are telling me the truth and are accurately interpreting their personal experience?
I don't think you want to hear.
No, I want you to answer the question. If you answer the question, I won't interrupt you and I won't talk over you. I will let you speak. If you don't answer the question, then yeah, I'm going to interrupt you and stop you and bring you back to the point.
You want me to reveal
Okay, so
something
now
that
you
I
need to
can't.
answer the question instead of this meta.
Dude, I can't answer
Okay,
your question.
fantastic. I agree that you can't answer the question. All I want is to have a linear conversation. It's pretty simple. I love that Darth sends his minions to come here and try to talk shit on me. So Darth, just to give everybody the lore, what actually happened that Mysterious Galaxy is talking about, Darth was in my comments a little while back. I could actually find the specific day that it happened. Darth was in my comments asking me, begging me for a moderated debate. He wanted to know if I would agree to a moderated debate. So I said in the recording to him that I would agree to a moderated debate on certain terms. I gave him the terms and he never responded. So then when I was scrolling through TikTok one day and I saw his live, I asked him on his live, hey, are you willing to agree to my terms? Do you still want that moderated debate that you asked me for? And then he pretended that he didn't ask me for a moderated debate and he's running away. Let me find, I will tell you all exactly the day. And then you could go to my YouTube which is simply Ogar Debates, and you could find the recording from that day. Let me just make sure what day it was. Looks like it would have been the 25th of May. So May 25th would have been the day that Darth was in my comments asking me for a moderated debate. And so that's why when I went into his stream, I asked him if he still wanted the moderated debate. And then he acted like I was running from him somehow for not having an unmoderated debate that obviously I have no obligation to have. Not that I really need to be spending time about talking about that fucking moron, but just so everybody knows what actually happened. Before I bring up the next person, I just want to remind you guys that, yeah, I'm afraid. Hey, if Darth wants to talk, he's welcome to come. He's welcome to come here and request up. And last time that he came, or the first time that he came here, we could have had the conversation, but he just started crying and found a reason to run away. Anyway, what I've done is created a, yeah, I'm not going to go let him bully me and mute me. Because I know that he can't have a good faith conversation. I see how his lives go. So before I move on to the next guest, I just want to remind you guys that I did start a Discord with the help of Lupine and Philo Dragon, and I'm going to go ahead and throw the link in the chat here, and I will put it up on the screen for a little bit. I don't think that I put the QR code up on the screen for a little bit. I don't think TikTok likes very much when you have links like that, so I won't leave it up for very long. But hopefully some folks who are interested in starting a community, you know, with me and focused on learning and reading and growing as a community, you know, I'd love you to join. If not, totally fine as well. But we'll move on to the next guest. Let's just make sure if you're in the guest queue or if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, please make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Hi, Abdullah. Are you at least 18?
You shut up.
Okay, just another child. Hi, Jay. Are you at least 18?
Yes, sir. I'm 25.
Cool. And what God do you believe in?
I am Muslim.
Okay. One quick second. River, all you have to do is go on a browser and shit, I don't remember the exact instructions. It's really easy to get around that age restriction thing.
Nigger.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would expect from a theist. Okay, so if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, please make sure that you're 18 plus and have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. I don't talk to children for two reasons. Number one, that would be weird as fuck. And number two, it's against TikTok terms of service. Hi, TG. Are you at least 18?
Yeah, I just turned 18.
Okay, what God do you believe in?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Cool. And what would you say is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God?
So, what I think is the best argument is just there's so many beliefs going around, and the reason what makes me believe in Jesus Christ is because there's been scientific proof between Bibles and all that just makes me believe in him. Quotes that I feel like just don't come by accident. So,
okay, so you're just trolling. Fair enough. I don't know if you guys could hear it immediately, but I heard the giggles and laughs. Oh, I love how Mysterious Galaxy is so far up Darth's ass he'll believe any lie that he tells him. Oh yeah, the shirt is Jason Voorhees. I did not block Darth. I love that Darth spends so much fucking time thinking about me. So yeah, currently don't have anybody requesting. So if you're in the chat and you have some kind of argument or evidence for why you think that a God exists, feel free to come up. I would love to have the conversation. Just need to make sure that you're an adult, that you believe in a God, and that you have some kind of argument or evidence. Hey, thanks, Skeptic Mode. That's fucking awesome. Appreciate it. Here's the one thing that I will say about Darth Dawkins, though. There are multiple people out in the world with his name, his first and last name, and I've seen people trying to smear Darth by pointing to like some like kind of like arrest record or whatever for a different person with Darth's name, and oh, I guess I don't really even care about doxing Darth. But what I was going to say is that there are other people with the same name. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, both sides. That's actually a different person with the Darth's first and last name. Bob, that's fucking insane, but I would not be surprised if Darth said that. But what I'm just trying to say is that, like, yes, Darth is a garbage human being, but we don't need to make stuff up, and we don't need to make stuff. We don't need to like pretend that he did things that he didn't do in order to try to make him look bad. He makes himself look bad all good enough on his own. Yeah, I see people accusing him of that too, and I also was in a Discord server where somebody brought up like legal documents claiming that it was Darth Dawkins, but it wasn't him. It was another person with his name, and I don't think that we should be trying to smear people for things that they didn't actually do. If Darth actually was, you know, a domestic abuser, 100% I would be like letting people know that and, you know, acting accordingly. But as far as I can tell, the claims that he is a domestic abuser are not founded. I don't know whether he is or not. I have no idea. I don't know him personally. I just don't want people running around spreading false information about him. Again, there are enough reasons to dislike Darth and enough reasons that we know that he's a bad person and that his arguments suck. We don't need to make stuff up. But yeah, so if you are 18 plus and have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God, please feel free to request. Just trying to have some honest, good faith conversations about whether or not there's justification to believe in a God. It is my personal position that there is no such justification, but hey, maybe somebody can show me that I'm wrong. With over 100 people in here, you would think that, you know, there would be theists who would actually want to have the conversation, but any Christians ever read 1 Peter 3:15? Yeah, so okay, River, let me look this up since I don't have a guest right now. How to wait, Discord age restriction on iPhone. Okay, so if you log into Discord on like a desktop, like a PC, you know, a desktop web browser, not on mobile, you can't do it on mobile. You have to log in on a computer, click the user settings gear icon in the bottom left corner, go to content and social, and then toggle allow access to age restricted content on iOS, and then you just restart. Yeah, then I don't know what you would do other than maybe if you pull it up on a browser on your phone and then you go into the browser settings for that page and select request desktop site or something like that. You can pretty easily toggle that. I think that would work. I'm not sure. I just don't really want a bunch of spam and children in my server. Awesome. Cool. So yeah, still no requests. I don't know if I'd like do another reset. I've been less than half an hour since I reset before, and apparently we've already defeated all of the theists. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Can't have debates if nobody is willing to debate. I'm just going to assume that the Christians all know that they're defeated. The Christians know that there is no God and that their beliefs are unwarranted. Yeah. Everybody's afraid of me. I'm just such a great debater. But yeah, hopefully we will actually get some theists in here. If anyone, if you are 18 plus and have some kind of argument or evidence that provides justification for a God, feel free to come up. I'd be happy to have the debate. It's obviously my position that no gods exist. Oh, maybe what we do is we throw like a syllogism up on the screen. Whoa. What the fudge? Hey, thanks, Casey. That was awesome. Yeah, I hath slain all the theists. Okay. Are there any... I don't know if you guys have gotten to see this. I think that there's, ooh, actually, maybe we have a... Oh, shit. Well, hold on. Okay. Well, we'll see how it goes. Do you have anything of substance for me this time, Style? Nothing?
Well, obviously, yes.
Well, I mean, you haven't the other
Wait,
times
what?
that you've come up here, so...
Obviously, I do. Of course I do.
Well, hey, I mean, there's a first time for everything. Maybe the third time's the charm.
You've just been ridiculous every single time.
The first time you got mad at me that I didn't suck Aquinas' dick, and then the second time you couldn't answer a question. So maybe you can do better this time. We'll see. What's the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God?
Sir, you're glitching. You're glitching.
So what's the argument?
Dude, you're glitching.
So you don't want to present an argument?
Okay. You're glitching.
Oh, I'm glitching. Yeah, okay. That does a lot. Everybody really thinks that you're winning now. So what's the argument?
No, I'm not claiming I'm winning. I'm just telling you you're glitching.
Mm-hmm. So what's the argument?
Relax, dude. You're glitching. Okay. You're settled down now. Great.
All right. So if you are 18 plus and have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God, feel free to request. All right. Maybe we'll get a serious interlocutor. Hi, Blaine. Are you at least 18?
I am 38.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm still older than you, so I think I win. Debate's over.
I guess I need to fall to your wisdom. Then.
Yeah, respect your elders. Didn't you know that?
Yeah, absolutely.
At least you were born in the right decade, though.
Yeah, I like to think so, yeah.
What God do you believe in?
I personally like to believe that we are all individual shards of infinity.
Okay, well, that doesn't really tell me anything. Do you believe that a God exists, like some kind of mind that created the universe, an ultimate foundation of reality?
I believe that there is an ultimate creator beyond our comprehension that we can not understand.
Okay, and what would you say is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe that a God does exist?
Are you asking for physical evidence or just because everything that I've been listening to is people trying to give their personal experiences, and I know that that's not what you're looking for. So are you asking for like physical evidence that a God exists?
I'm so sorry. I just need to call out that Robot Goat apparently is here, and that's cool as fuck. They're awesome. Anyway, I'm so sorry. I'm ADHD, well, undiagnosed, probably, maybe not, but I just easily distracted. So I appreciate that you understand that personal experience doesn't get us very far, and it's not because I don't believe that you had the personal experiences that you may want to talk about, or for anybody, it's not that I don't believe them. It's that I can't tell when I have, 50 people from 50 different spiritual traditions or beliefs or whatever telling me that their personal experiences all led them to contradictory conclusions. I have no way of knowing if I should believe any of them or none of them or whatever. So I just have to not take a position on any of their interpretations of their experiences until such time as I actually have a tool that would allow me to tell the difference between their claims and how they're interpreting them. Anyway.
Yeah. So understood.
Sure. And
so you're looking for like physical evidence.
No. Physical evidence is fine. I would accept physical evidence, but that's not what I'm asking for. And that's why I like to say argument or evidence, because typically when you say evidence, people think that you mean, like a smoking gun or something like that. But I would be completely
Understood.
fine with like a philosophical argument that concludes God exists, right? If I agree with all the premises and the inference is valid, and it's either deductive, then I'll definitely believe, or if it's like inductive or abductive, then I'll judge how strong of an argument it is, and that could change my credence in whether or not I think God exists. So I don't.
Yeah,
It doesn't need to be a smoking gun.
Yeah, I like to believe that if there is a God and he or she, whatever you prefer, is omniscient and omnipresent, that for he or she, whatever, to be able to experience his creation, he had to limit himself. And how he did that, or he or she, whatever. I'm just going to use he for,
That's fine.
What he had to limit himself to be able to experience his creation through all of our eyes. So
That's fine. I understand that this is
so
what you
I
believe.
love the Bible verse that says, the kingdom of heaven lives within you. Love that one. So like, not
That's
only
fine. So,
is the
Blaine-
kingdom of heaven within me, but he is also within you too.
Okay. So it sounds like you're a Christian and not just like a generic theist.
I don't know. I have an Om symbol tattooed on my right forearm right now, and
But anyway, that's not relevant. I'm sorry. That was a rabbit trail. That's my fault. The issue that I'm having with what you're saying right now, Blaine, is that you're telling me what you believe, but I don't need to hear more about what you believe. I'm asking, why do you believe what you believe?
why?
Yeah.
Why do I believe this?
Hey, I'll
Why I believe it is because it makes me feel good.
Okay. Well, I'm only interested in whether or not it's true. I don't really care about how it makes somebody feel. So is there any reason why we should think that it's true that a God exists?
But you just asked me why I believe this personally.
Yep. And I told you, and I didn't tell you that wasn't true, I didn't say that it doesn't make you feel good. I'm saying that I don't care that it makes you feel good. And so I'm
Yeah, I
refining the
understand
question
that.
that I'm asking you, because you're right. You did answer my question. So I'm refining the question so that we can go down a path that I actually am interested in talking about. Otherwise, we're not trying to have the same conversation. So what I'm talking about is whether or not there are reasons to think that it's true, not like, do you know the difference between prudential justification and propositional justification?
No, please explain that to me.
Okay, so prudential justification is exactly what you just said. It makes me feel good, so I personally have a reason to believe in it or to do this thing or whatever, right? That's I get some benefit from it, so I'm going to do it. That's a prudential justification for doing
Yeah,
a
it's
thing.
like an ego boost.
Well, whether it's an ego boost or whatever, you know what I mean? Like it could be like comfort after losing a family member.
Do these conversations that you have give you a prudential, whatever you just said? Does it make you feel good to have this this argument?
No.
I don't know. It kind of seems like it does. From what I've just been watching over the past like 30 minutes of this entire live stream, it seems like you're really enjoying yourself being able to unprove people's thoughts and belief.
Well, so as I was saying a little bit ago, I care a lot about what is true and what's not.
Yeah,
You may have seen in my
like
hold on, Blaine.
searcher.
Blaine, I let you speak. Please give me the same courtesy.
Apologies.
So you may have seen when you came in, you may not have seen it, I don't know, but I have my little description that pops up that I'm an atheist and I want to believe as many true things as possible and as few false things as possible. That's my goal. I don't have any allegiance to atheism. It doesn't make me happy to not be a Christian. It doesn't make me happy to not be a Muslim. All I care about, what is important to me, is that I have reasons to believe that my beliefs are true, that I have justification for thinking that my beliefs are true, and that I'm engaged actively in trying to make sure that if I have any false beliefs, that I get rid of them. So that's what I care about, and that's what I enjoy. And I do like these conversations because, I'm just someone who has always wanted to question things and always wanted to know whether I'm correct about things. And the best way to know whether I'm correct about things is to put my positions to the test and allow other people to take their best shot at knocking down my positions. And I would gladly change any one of my positions right now, literally right now. I will change any position that I hold if I'm given justification to do so. So what I'm asking for is whether there's justification to believe in a God. Are you aware of any kind of, so again, we were talking about prudential versus propositional justification. I understand you have prudential justification to believe in a God. Propositional justification would be there are actually reasons to believe that the proposition is true, not just reasons to act like it's true. So I'm asking, do you have that kind of justification that it's true that a God exists?
No, I don't think
Okay.
anybody does.
I would agree with you. Well, then my only other thing that I would say to you, Blaine, is number one, I appreciate you being honest and having a polite conversation. And number two, I would recommend that you really think about whether or not it's a good thing to believe things that you don't have a reason to believe, and what negative impacts could possibly come from allowing yourself to believe things that might not be true, and how that can allow you to bring other potentially untrue beliefs into your belief system because they pass the muster, or they're like entailed by the first thing that you believe that probably isn't true. So that's what
Yeah.
I would encourage you to do. And maybe if you think about it and you come up with some argument that you think does
Can I-
provide a reason to believe in
before you
God,
kick me
you
off,
can come
can I
back
ask
another
you a
time.
question?
What's that?
Yeah, can you give me what's your reasoning behind not believing that there is or is not a God?
Well, the reason I don't have a positive belief that there is a God is that no one has ever provided any kind of justification to think that there is one.
So you're basing your whole beliefs off other people's opinions?
No. I
No,
was in the
what's
middle
your
of a
own-
sentence and then you interrupted me and then tried to say that that was my entire position.
Oh, I'm sorry. You are a very articulate person, and like I'm just trying to be able to have this conversation with you. So, like, what's your personal reasons for not believing that there is or is not a God?
Yeah, that I
Like,
was trying
what
to answer that
experience-
question and you interrupted me while I was answering.
I apologize once again.
So the reason that I don't have a positive belief that there is a God is that from my standpoint, my opinion is that the only way someone should believe that something is true is if they have that propositional justification that I was talking about before. And I don't think that, as you agreed, I don't think that propositional justification to believe in a God exists. So that's why I don't have a positive belief that there is a God. And then there are lots and lots of arguments that give me reasons to think that the gods that other people believe in definitely aren't true. Like typically the type of God that people believe in have internal contradictions. And I am not a dialetheist. I don't believe that contradictions can actually be true. And so if there is a contradiction in a specific God concept, then obviously that God concept can't actually exist in reality, and we can dismiss it. And so the Christian God, every version of the Christian God that I'm aware of has those internal contradictions. So it's literally logically impossible that the Christian God could exist. And then the same is true of every version of the Muslim God that I'm aware of. I think that the same seems to be true of every God concept that I'm aware of. Now, if somebody
I thought the
brought
Muslim God and the Christian God were the same thing.
well, no, because the Christian God sent his son to earth to torture him to death, to die, to serve as a loophole for a rule that the God created himself and could have just, gotten rid of anyway. So that nonsense story is only in Christianity.
I thought that Jesus said that he and his father were one, that they were the same thing.
Right. So God sent himself to earth as his own. He fucked his own mother to send himself to earth as his own son to torture himself, to be a human sacrifice, to serve as a loophole for a rule that he created and that he could have just gotten rid of if he wanted to get rid of it. It's a ridiculous story, but while there are 3 quote-unquote Abrahamic religions, only Christianity believes that stupid story. Judaism has a whole bunch of other stupid stories that they believe, and then Islam has their own stupid stories that they believe. And so each of those gods are distinct, right? Neither the Jewish God nor the Muslim God sent an avatar of themselves to earth in the form of Jesus, right? Jesus may be a prophet in the Muslim religion, and Jesus is viewed probably as some kind of apocalyptic rabbi in the Jewish perspective. So, right, like I said, they all come to contradictory conclusions, and they are not the same God.
All right.
Well, I appreciate
Okay,
the
brother.
conversation, and I hope that you have a good one. If you ever do come up with some justification, feel free to come back.
How's it going, bro?
It's a going. I saw you joined my Discord and immediately were an asshole.
That's me.
Oh,
Got it.
Son of a bitch.
So I saw when I first came into here a few minutes ago, I missed your conversation with Style. he's pretty insufferable in my experience.
Oh
How
yeah,
did
it
you
didn't
go?
it didn't last very long. As soon as he came up, I asked if he was going to actually be able to have the conversation, and then all he wanted to say is that I'm glitching, and then he couldn't actually engage in a conversation, so I just kicked him.
Yeah, he's one of the people who, like, he would not probably answer your preliminary question about what God he believes in. He was on I don't remember if he answered me or not. Sometimes I'll just like let it go. But he was up on Robot Goats at one point, and was just, like, it was like pulling teeth getting it out of him.
Yep. Yeah, that's why yeah, my notes for him that I looked up quick before bringing him up, where the first time he came up, he got mad at me because I didn't suck Aquinas' dick, and then the second time that he came up, he couldn't answer a question. So, what do you do? Okay. If you are in the guest queue or thinking about joining, please make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. So we will bring up MHG and see if we can have a good conversation. Hi, are you at least 18?
Yes, I'm over 18.
Okay, and what God do you believe in?
The God of the Bible.
Okay, and what would you say? Well, is that the Christian Bible?
Yes, the Christian Bible. That's
Okay,
correct.
cool. And what would you say is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God?
Um, Justification is based on the claim that they gave.
What?
In Genesis.
What?
You're saying the justifications. Should I believe in the God
Yeah,
of
what
the
is
Bible?
what is the rational justification to believe that God actually exists and not that people just wrote stories about a fake God?
Yeah. The God of the Bible presented a framework of who he is.
No, people wrote in a story that that there was a God that presented that, but I don't have any reason to believe that God actually exists. So if you want me to believe that the stories are accurate, then you need to show me that God exists, and then we can talk about that story.
That's exactly what.
No, the
So
story
the claim
can't do
is the
that,
Bible.
MHG. The story can't do that. That's like trying to prove that Spider-Man exists by pointing to Spider-Man comics. Obviously, just because there are Spider-Man comics doesn't mean that Spider-Man exists. It just means that people wrote stuff about Spider-Man down and then other people are reading it. Similarly, just because there are stories about a God doesn't mean that God actually exists. It just means that people wrote down stories.
That's not my position.
Okay, but
That's
what
not
you're
my
saying is that there's something in the story. I'm saying that we can't talk about the story until I believe in a God. So you have to start with why I should believe in a God before we go to the Bible.
That is correct. The story is the claim. The claim presented a framework in the claim itself.
Yeah, so what's the
So,
evidence?
in
I don't
order-
want to hear the claim, MHG. I want to hear the evidence.
Okay. So the question that I'm going to ask you.
No, you're not
when
asking
you
me a
say
question.
is-
No, you're not asking me a question. You're providing some kind of justification for why I should believe that a God exists.
Yes, based on a framework of the description of the God.
Yeah, that's all fiction as far as I'm concerned. Why should I believe that the God actually
Not the
exists?
framework. The framework is not a fiction
I don't care about the framework. Why should I believe in a God?
because it's not an abstract claim. It's a structured claim.
I don't care. Do you understand what I'm asking you?
That's because what you're asking is
So it sounds like you're just not able to engage or track what's happening. Do you understand what I'm asking you for?
what are you asking exactly?
I'm asking you to provide some kind of justification for why I should think that a God exists. Just saying that there are stories about a God and that those stories include this framework that has nothing to do with whether or not there's justification to believe in a God. Stop talking over me, MHG. I'm trying to explain to you because you're clearly not understanding. I am not asking. In fact, I'm specifically telling you not to bring up the Bible or the stories in it or the framework in those stories, because none of those things have anything to do with whether or not there's justification to believe in a God. All I care about is whether there's justification to believe in a God. So if you answer with anything other than justification to believe in a God, I will just take it as a concession that you know God doesn't exist and you're just trolling. So, without referring to the Bible or anything related to the Bible, what is the justification to believe in a God?
So let me ask you a
Nope, you're not
question.
asking me questions.
So to clarify,
Nope, you're not
something
asking me
else.
questions, MHG. You're providing the justification. I'm going to give you one more chance. If the next thing out of your mouth is anything other than an attempt to provide justification to believe in God, I'm taking it as a concession. You need to unmute and go ahead and provide the justification.
So you're asking me to present to you an identity, correct?
All right. Thank you very much for the concession. Yeah, it seemed pretty clear, Jay, that the guest didn't understand, and I was trying very, very hard to explain it, and he just would not engage with what I was saying. So I just can't deal with that. If you explain something 5 times and somebody still doesn't get it, then what are you going to do?
Time to move on.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not wasting any more time on it. So if you're in the guest queue or thinking about joining, please make sure that you're 18 plus and that you have some kind of argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God. Hi, Spencer.
Hey.
Are you at least 18?
I am.
And what God do you believe in?
I believe in the Christian God.
Okay, and what would you say is the best argument or evidence that would provide rational justification to believe in a God?
Okay, so I don't know. So far, I haven't been alive for very long. I don't know which arguments you've heard. I usually have a few that I like to say, and I am studying this, so I may trip over my words a bit. Just bear with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my best reason for me believing is probably fine-tuning, which I'm sure you've heard of hundreds of times. And I mean, everything's set to specific values. If anything were off by a certain decimal, nothing at all would exist. And the odds of like this happening, in my mind at least, are very low. And I think, in my mind, the odds of this happening is 0 unless there's infinite universes.
Okay, so why should we think that the odds are low?
I think, well, if we look at how everything is formed, the way DNA is formed, the way cells are formed in your body.
No, this isn't answering my question. You're saying that the physical constants of the universe are finely tuned, and it was unlikely for them to be set to the values that they're set at. How did you determine that to be the case?
How did I determine that it's unlikely?
Yes, how did you determine how many different values each physical constant could have had in order to determine how likely it is that they would have these constants?
Well, if I take a look at any random decimal number.
No, I'm not asking you to look at numbers. I'm asking you to tell me, like, for example, the cosmological constant. What did you do to determine the range of possible values the cosmological constant could have had? Not just what numbers are there, and can you pretend the cosmological constant could have had those values? That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, how did you confirm with some degree of confidence that the cosmological constant could have had a different value than the one that it has? No, if you're just typing into ChatGPT, then I'll just go talk to ChatGPT myself.
No, I'm in ministry and I'm writing this down to further look into it later. But I guess my idea would be that, one, I don't think I could fully answer you with full confidence in that because I don't.
Well, then you agree that this argument is dead. If you can't demonstrate, because if your whole argument relies on the physical constants being unlikely, and you have no way to provide any justification for thinking that the physical constants are unlikely, then you would have to admit that this is a completely dead argument.
Well, I guess let me
respond to what I said, please.
Then yes, I guess between us this argument would be dead, but my
No,
logic...
not between us. For you and anyone else that you talk to, this argument is now dead until you should not ever use this argument again. And if you hear anyone else using this argument, you should tell them to stop, because they're doing a disservice to your faith by going out there and presenting arguments as good arguments that are bad arguments. It makes you and every other theist look bad when you give arguments like this that you can't support. It just looks like you're dumb. And I don't think you're a dumb person, but that's what you're doing to yourself and what other theists are doing to you and the reputation of theism in general by giving arguments like this and refusing to give them up when someone shows you that they don't work. You now know, has now been pointed out to you, that you cannot, and as far as you know, no one can provide justification for the fine-tuning argument, so you should not use it, and you should encourage other theists not to use it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So is there a different argument besides fine-tuning, or do you want to tell me that I'm wrong about fine-tuning? Which I don't mean that in a condescending way. I could be wrong, and I'd be happy for you to tell me.
Get it. And no, and I'll have to look into that on my own time, but obviously I don't have the time in this live to look into that myself. I'm just gonna ask you this. Have you heard of, obviously you have probably, you've heard of the ontological argument? I'm not gonna get too into it.
Which one? Anselm's or the modal ontological argument?
I don't know the difference. Basically the one that God's existence is necessary because a being that exists in reality is great, like the greatest existing being.
Anselm's.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, then you just need to get around the greatest slice of pizza. Imagine the greatest possible slice of pizza.
Okay.
Now, does that slice of pizza exist?
No.
Right, but it would be greater if it did exist, right?
True.
Okay, well, so if you were imagining the greatest possible slice of pizza, then it would exist. So obviously, if you're imagining one that doesn't exist, you're not actually imagining the greatest possible slice of pizza. So do you see how that doesn't actually make sense? Just because you can imagine a thing with properties X, Y, and Z doesn't mean that in reality there is instantiated a thing with properties X, Y, and Z.
Okay, then
Like a
I guess
perfect
I would
circle.
push back on that.
1 second,
Just by-
Spencer. I'm sorry. What were you saying, Lobes?
I'll just give another example, like a perfect circle. You can kind of imagine the perfect circle that is perfectly to pi, but it doesn't exist anywhere in reality.
Yeah, it's only like conceptual. I can imagine, for example, the perfect universe farting unicorn, and her name is Eunice, and she's pretty glorious. But just because I can imagine her doesn't mean that she exists.
Is her main cotton candy?
You know what? That's actually kind of insensitive of you to ask. That's a private matter.
My apologies. My apologies once again.
Oh, wow.
I think I'm funny.
I think you're funny.
But yeah, so basically what I'm saying though is that just because we can imagine a thing with a specific set of properties doesn't mean that if we imagine that one of those properties is that it exists, that doesn't mean that it exists. Another really good response to this is that existence isn't a predicate. That's a much, much more complex conversation. But basically what it boils down to is if you think that existence is a property that you can assign to things like redness or weight or something like that, if existence is a property that we can assign to things like that, then that, because it's true that a thing has to exist in order for its predicates to be assigned to it in reality, anything that doesn't exist would also have to exist in order for its non-existence to be applied to it in reality. So that means that if you say existence is a predicate, that all non-existent things exist. And that's obviously a contradiction. It can't be the case that something that is non-existent also exists. So if using existence as a predicate immediately results in infinite contradictions, obviously then we shouldn't be using existence as a predicate.
Okay. Awesome. I'm glad you pointed that out to me, and I will also look into that. I guess what I would go on to next is, I'm not super experienced on this one, but I mean, logically, I've kind of made my way through this. Basically how purely physical things like atoms, neurons, all the chemistry in your mind and your brain, they don't produce a subjective or objective experience. You don't just like process the information. You have an experience of being alive. And I would go far enough to be like, I can't imagine a world where these physical things produce a non-physical experience.
Well, I don't think physical things create a non-physical experience. I think that our experiences are physical. Qualia is physical. Also, the issue here, I want to point out something that you said there. You said, I would go so far as to say that I just can't believe that this could be true. And I understand, but what that is just an argument from incredulity. I can't imagine that this thing is true, therefore this other thing that I believe must be true. But just because I prove one of, like, for example, if I would have said, I was able to show you that the fine-tuning argument is a bad argument, does that mean that definitely no gods exist and there are no good arguments? Of course not. It just means that that argument doesn't work. That doesn't prove that there are no other arguments that work. So just shutting down one possibility doesn't then allow you to posit anything else as being true. So, if the current explanations we have for why we think that consciousness, or why most people or a lot of people think that consciousness is physical, aren't sufficient to you, that doesn't give you justification on its own to believe that consciousness is not physical.
Well, I guess. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to go into something else, so you can respond to what I was saying.
Oh, well, I mean, I guess the way that I see it is, I mean, I'm eliminating everything but God. And so the only option for me is God.
How do you know that you've eliminated everything but God?
Because I think God, from my knowledge, and obviously there's more knowledge that I don't have, from my knowledge, I see that you have consciousness, and of my knowledge that I have right now, that consciousness can only possibly come from a being such as God. And I'm not saying that's an argument against you. I'm just saying that's why that argument leads me to believe in a God, because I think there can be nothing but God.
Yeah, you're making two major errors there. Number one, You're still doing the argument from incredulity. As far as I know, these answers don't work, therefore it must be God. That's still just an argument from incredulity. Arguing from incredulity is fallacious, so you should not do that. It's a bad idea. It cannot ever get you to where you're trying to go. The second major problem with what you're saying is that we don't get to say that God is the best possible explanation until we've shown that God is a possible explanation, right? If we're writing out, like, let's say we have some phenomenon P, and we want to decide what are all the possible explanations for P, and then we write out a list of the things that we can think of as being explanations for P. We don't get to include things unless we have done the work to confirm that each of those things actually has the capacity to cause P. So if God doesn't exist, obviously God doesn't have the capacity to cause anything. If God exists in some configuration where he isn't actually able to interact with reality, then obviously God couldn't possibly be an explanation for anything in reality. So what you have to do is, in order for God to be on the list of possible explanations, you have to show that God exists, and then you have to show that God has the ability to be this kind of cause, or to be a cause for this kind of effect. And until you've done those two things, he shouldn't even be on the list. So if we're trying to do what you're doing is abductive reasoning and inference to the best explanation, you're saying, based on all the information that I have and all the explanations that I'm considering, I think God is the best one. What I'm saying is that God shouldn't be on that list until you've independently verified that he exists and that he has the ability to cause this kind of effect. The other thing that I do want to point out, so those are my two problems with what you've said so far. And then the other thing that I want to point out is, are you familiar with the causal closure argument?
No, I'm not. Can you please inform me?
So it's a 3-premise argument, so 3 premises and a conclusion. Premise 1 is that mental events have physical effects. For example, if I have a mental state that I want to raise my hand and tap my finger against my head, that mental state, that mental intention, causes the physical effect of my finger tapping against my head, right? Mm-hmm. So we know that mental events have physical effects. Premise 2 is that every determined physical effect has a fully sufficient physical cause, and the probability of every probabilistic physical event is determined by physical circumstances. So what that means is, if something is deterministic in that there's a fully sufficient explanation for a physical event, there's going to be a fully sufficient physical explanation for that physical event. For example, with me raising my hand and tapping my finger against my head, that we can trace all of the electrical and chemical signals that are happening and how they're being communicated from my brain to my finger. So there is a fully sufficient physical explanation for why that physical event happened. And then in probabilistic things, like for example, radioactive decay in atoms, those things, they're probabilistic but they're always determined by physical circumstances. So it's the state that the atom is in physically that determines the probability of it decaying into a different atom. So that would be the second premise, that physical effects have physical explanations. And then we would say that body movements are not, and my next premise would be that body movements aren't systematically overdetermined. And what it means to overdetermine something is to say, I have a complete explanation for something that has no holes, and then I have another second complete explanation for the thing. We don't need to do that. If we can explain physical effects like body movements as if we can fully explain them using physical information, which we can, then there's no reason for us to posit non-physical explanations, because there's no hole to plug. So then the conclusion is that mental causes are identical or reducible to physical causes.
Wow. Yeah, I'll definitely look into all that. And I don't think
I'll put that up on the screen here. I'm sorry.
I don't think there's much more that I have, but I guess the last thing is just trying to get like your perspective on it so I can see where you stand on this, see if I can go on an argument about this. Why do you think there's something rather than nothing? And I know you've probably heard it. I just want to understand.
Yeah. So there are two answers to that, and I'm just going to try to give both quickly, and then you can respond to either or both, however you want. So the first easiest answer, I have no idea. I have no idea why there's something rather than nothing, and I don't think anybody knows why there's something rather than nothing, and trying to posit a God as an explanation for why there's something rather than nothing only pushes the mystery back a step and makes it a bigger mystery than it already was. Because now we don't have to explain why the universe exists, we have to explain why the universe exists and why this God exists, which is much harder to explain than the universe. So I don't think that we solve anything by positing a God. And then the other explanation, or the other answer that I could give, would be to just kind of point out that if we think that something can't come from nothing, and I have no reason to believe that something can come from nothing, so it seems at least somewhat plausible to think that something can't come from nothing. And if it's the case that something can't come from nothing, but there is something, then that must mean that there was never nothing. So it must be the case then that it's just necessarily the case that something always existed. Like that it must be impossible for there to be a state of existence where nothing exists. So maybe there is no explanation, it just couldn't be any other way.
Okay. And I'll definitely respond to that in a second. I just want to also get, are you looking for proof that God exists, or proof that it's more likely he does than he doesn't?
Yeah, I think that proof is about 100% absolute certainty, and I'm not here to talk about 100% absolute certainty because I don't think we have access to that.
Okay. So I guess for the something nothing exists, obviously I appreciate you just saying you don't know. I mean, some people try to put that out there that they know it, and there's no way for us to really know why there's something at all. I personally, in my mind, I know why, but you in your mind don't know why, and that's okay. That's just how our minds are.
Yeah, I just don't think that you do, Spencer, because in order for you to say you know why there's something rather than nothing, you would have to be able to say you know why there's a God instead of no God.
I know, in my mind, I know there is a God because I've put my faith in him.
No, you have to know why there is a God and not know God. If you think it's a problem from my view that I don't have an explanation for why the universe exists instead of not existing, then it's an equal problem for your view that you don't know why God exists instead of God not existing.
I don't think it's a problem that you don't know why. I think you just don't know why.
Right, and I'm saying that we have the same, I'm saying that we're equal on that. I don't know why the universe exists instead of not existing, and you don't know why God exists instead of not existing.
True.
Yeah, so this isn't a asymmetry in our views.
Yes, I do not know why God exists instead of nothing, but I am convinced that he does exist, and that's just, I'm not trying to say anything with that. That's not my argument, of course, but I would say that obviously everything exists. You would agree with me that the universe does exist, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. That's great. And I'm trying to put this into words. I think that there's two options here, and it's the universe always existed, or something always existed, or something caused the universe to exist. Would you agree?
It depends on what you mean by the universe always existed. I don't know whether time is infinite in either or both directions, but it does seem that because I hold to the B theory of time, my perspective would be even if there is a first and or last moment of the universe, like of time, I would say that it's all equally actual. So I don't think that there is like, I don't know how to explain this. Even if there's a first moment and a last moment, that doesn't mean that there would have been a state of existence where the universe didn't exist, then the first moment, right?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'm trying to comprehend that, and it might take a while for me to, but I think that you're right. If the universe has a beginning and an end, there is no time outside of that.
Right. And I'm saying that right. And also I would say that I don't see a reason to think that there was any state of existence. Like if there was a first moment, there would not have been a non-temporal state of existence in some kind of, non-temporal priority to the first moment. It would just be that all moments of time exist at, and are equally actual on the four-dimensional level. And so there is no like coming into existence. It just always exists, and we experience time as a sequence of moments because of, the nature of the type of being that we are.
So yes, I would. So let me get this straight if we agree on this. So if we look in either time, there's been infinite time and the universe has always existed infinitely, like there's no beginning to it, right? That's just that. But if there was a specific beginning and a specific end to the universe, then the universe also would have always existed, because always is a matter of time, right?
Yeah, so I'm going to try to say, like, if we try to say that, like, eternal means atemporally existing in all states of existence or something like that, that's what I would say, is that the universe is eternal in that way. In an atemporal sense, there is no state of existence where it doesn't exist.
Right, because any time where it doesn't exist isn't a state of existence within time, of course.
Well, right, but I'm saying I don't even think that there could be atemporal states of existence without the universe.
Even outside of time?
Right, that's what I mean by atemporal, yep.
Okay, and so I guess, if you believe that and I believe what I believe that God is a being that's divine and completely outside of time. And so, are you about to say something?
I don't want to cut you off.
Oh, you're good. I was about to ramble about probably the same thing.
Well, here's what I'm going to say to you. I don't think that it's possible for a God outside of time to have created the universe.
Okay, and why do you think that?
I'm going to give you an argument again. We're going to go through a syllogism. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to state each premise and then ask you whether you agree. If you disagree, I will try to give you a reason to agree. And if you still disagree, maybe my argument fails.
Okay.
Okay, so premise 1, God has a mind. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay. And premise 2, minds either have a series of changing mental states or they only have one unchanging mental state. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do agree. Yes, that
Okay.
one of those two is correct.
Right. So those are the only two options for a mind.
Yes,
Like
I
in order for
agree
something
with
to be a mind, it has to at least have one mental state, but minds can also have multiple changing mental states.
Yes, I agree that it's yes.
Cool. And then premise 3, change only occurs in time. Do you agree?
Yes, I would agree.
Okay. And then we've already, premise 4 is one we've already discussed. You believe that God exists outside of time, right?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. And so then from those 4 premises, the first conclusion that we can come to confidently is that God has only one unchanging mental state. Since we said since he has a mind, and minds either have one unchanging mental state or a series of mental states, and him being outside of time means that no aspect of him can change. Obviously, that means his mental states can't change. So he only has the first or the second option, one unchanging mental state. So from there, I'll go to premise 5. Acting upon one's will changes one's mental states. Do you agree? I can provide an example if that's confusing.
An example.
Okay, so if I'm like, let's say it's my intention before I go to bed to brush my teeth, right? What that means is that I must have the mental state, I intend to brush my teeth but haven't done it yet. Then I'll go and I'll brush my teeth. And then after I'm done and I, put my toothbrush down and I rinse out my mouth and whatever, now I will have a new mental state that is, I have brushed my teeth. I have completed my will to brush my teeth. So necessarily, in order for any agent to act on their will, it must involve at least 2 mental states.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to have a lot more than 2 mental states, because I'm going to have the mental state, I'm going to brush my teeth, and then the mental state, I'm walking to the bathroom, then the mental state, hasn't it been 30 seconds yet? When the fuck is this thing going to buzz? So I can move to another part of my mouth. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to have all those mental states, but at bare minimum, there have to be 2. Okay. And so because we've already concluded that God only has one unchanging mental state, that means that God doesn't have the capacity to act on his will. Because that, what we said, would require a change of mental states. God doesn't have that capacity. So then premise 6, if God cannot act upon his will, he can't create the universe. That's obvious. Premise 7, if God exists, then he did create the universe. And then through the power of modus tollens, we would come to the final conclusion that God does not exist. So if we grant that God has a mind and is outside of time, then the only rational conclusion is that God doesn't exist.
I think, obviously, I'm wrestling with this question in my mind.
I put it up on the screen so that you can read back over it if you need to.
Oh, yes, awesome. I think that God, from what I believe, he didn't decide to create at some point, because that would assume that he's inside time when he decides to create, of course. And obviously, from a point outside of time, that can't happen. And from his perspective, I think the act of creation is eternal, and there was never a moment where God existed without creation being a part of his eternal will. Like this, I guess the sun doesn't decide to produce light at any moment. Light is just what the sun is. Creation.
So then what you're saying is that God didn't create the universe, right? There's a different argument called the Proclus dilemma that you've just walked right into, because it's either the case that God was always creating or not always creating. If he was not always creating, which isn't your position, but if he wasn't, then he would have to change from not creating to creating. If he changes, he's in time, but if he's in time, he didn't create time. So if God changed from not creating to creating, then he didn't create the universe. But the other option that you're saying, if God was always creating, then that means that because God always existed eternally, then that means that the universe also always existed. But if the universe always existed, it was never brought into existence. But to create something means to bring that thing into existence. So if the universe was never brought into existence, then that means it wasn't ever created. And if it wasn't created, then obviously God didn't create it. So obviously, under the view you don't hold, that there was a state of existence of God without the universe, that would lead us to the conclusion God doesn't exist. Unfortunately, though, it also, under your view that God was just always creating the universe, that also means God didn't create the universe and doesn't exist.
So let me just kind of repeat to you basically what I understood, is that creation basically implies that there's a before and there's an after. And before the universe doesn't exist, and after it does, and that requires a change in either God or in the situation, but God can't change.
Yeah,
Therefore, either God didn't create where God isn't unchanging.
Right. So, and if he isn't unchanging, then he also didn't create. So no matter what, he didn't create the
Right.
universe. So what I'm saying is that because creation is the act of bringing something into existence, that means that there must be a state of existence where it doesn't exist and a subsequent state of existence where it does exist. That's the only way that you could meaningfully say that something was created, unless you just are able to give a completely atemporal account of what it means to create something. But then I don't think that we're talking about creation anymore, and we're just equivocating at that point. Now, you could give me an account of creation that's atemporal, and maybe I'll agree that I'm wrong about that. But as far as I can tell right now, it seems that creation is temporal, like causation is temporal. If God didn't cause the universe to come into existence, he didn't bring it into existence, and if he didn't bring it into existence, he didn't create it. And if he didn't create it, but God is defined as the creator of the universe, then that means that God doesn't exist.
Interesting. So I guess just inferencing, I'm not familiar with atemporal, but atemporal creation basically means outside of time entirely, and it's saying that God didn't create the universe at a moment. He created time with everything else, so there's no like before it. So it's just outside of time.
Right. So atemporal creation, would mean creation without any time involved. The problem is, as we talked about before, change can only exist in time. And obviously creation is a change from something not existing to something existing. So if change only happens in time and creation requires a change, that means creation can only happen in time. And since time is a fundamental part of the universe, or it seems to be at least, then that means that change can only happen inside the universe, which means that the universe could not have ever been brought into existence. That would be a category error.
Okay, so I guess I would say that trying to think about this in a way that helps me understand it. I guess I have two responses that could be two separate things that I think are both could be part of like my God, like that aren't parting from what I believe in my God. And I guess the first one is that the change is entirely like the creation is a change in the universe, not a change in God.
No.
And like no.
Well, it can't be, because again, like if okay, so what we need to agree on, I think we need to nail this down. What do you mean when you say something is created?
I think when something is created, it means there wasn't something and then there was.
Right. So there's a state of existence where it doesn't exist, and then another state of existence where it does exist. And so what that sounds like to me is a sequence of moments. And so if your account of what it means to create something requires a sequence of moments, that means it requires time. And if creation requires time, then that means that creation can only happen inside time. If time is inside the universe, then that means that creation can only happen inside the universe.
Okay. So yeah, I don't have any response to that. I guess my second one would be like, I guess the opposite of that, and that it would be creation is God's like eternal act. Not necessarily that creation itself is eternal. Well, I guess it is, because it's inside time, and then that would mean that it's eternal in a time sense. But God's creative act isn't a certain like event in time. It's a single.
Right, but it's not a creative act anymore. You've defined what a creative act must be, like what the requirements are for something to qualify as being a creative act. And then now you've just said that the way God created the universe doesn't fit that definition. So you're genuinely just equivocating on the word creation. You're saying, this is what I mean when I say creation, and then you're using it in a way that doesn't fit the definition that you gave at all.
Well, I think it does fit the definition.
No, it doesn't.
Because
It doesn't, though. Because what you're
How
saying
would it
is that
not?
okay, hold on. Let me put this up on the screen because I think that maybe that could help. So we'll get rid of this and we'll say creation is um uh a prior state of existence where X did not exist and a subsequent state of existence where X does exist, right? And so what that means is that in order for anything to count as creation, there have to be minimum 2 states of existence. But what you're saying is that there's only ever been one state of existence for God, and that's where he exists with the universe. If he has always eternally existed alongside the universe, then that means that no creation act ever occurred. And so you cannot say that God created the universe under that view. But again, we've defined God as the creator of the universe. And so if God is the creator of the universe but did not create the universe, then God isn't the creator of the universe. And so now we're saying that God is the creator of the universe and is not the creator of the universe, but contradictions aren't real. They can't exist. So that means since God has an internal contradiction, he can't exist.
I think what I'm trying to say is that from my perspective of God, it's not a being that was there and then initiated
I know.
creation.
Yes, I agree. That is what you're saying. And that means you're defining him as being both the creator and not the creator, which is, it means that you're defining a contradiction. You literally are telling me that you believe in a square circle. You and I both know that square circles can't exist. Married bachelors can't exist. You're telling me that you believe in a married bachelor.
Well, I think I'm not I'm trying to fully understand this because in my mind, I don't see how this means that he is not the creator at all.
Okay, so if God, we'll put this into syllogism form. If God is the creator of the universe, then there was a state of existence where God existed without the universe and a different state of existence where God existed with the universe. So that is the only way that we can meaningfully say that God is the creator of the universe. However, there was no state of existence, from your view, there was no state of existence where God existed without the universe. So the conclusion, God is not the creator of the universe. Then we'll say 3, if God exists, he is the creator of the universe. So God does not exist. So, not to be an asshole, but what I'll need you to do now, because I really want this to be linear, is I'll need you to either reject one of these premises, 1, 2, or 3, or so you have three things that you could do right now. You could reject a premise, you can reject the inference rule, or you can accept that God doesn't exist.
Okay.
And I'm putting my foot down, and I'm not going to allow anything else because we've been talking for almost 40 minutes. And I feel like we're right now at this point where you've been very nice, you've been very polite, but you are starting to, be rude in the sense that you are like intentionally avoiding what I'm telling you and the entailments of your own position. And I'm trying to be very, very courteous and explain it to you as simply and charitably as I can, but you're like actively equivocating on the word create by saying, here's the definition of create, but I'm going to say God created even though it doesn't fit that definition. And that's extremely rude and bad faith of you. So since you're now being rude and bad faith, I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. I need you to, again, either reject a premise, reject the inference rule, or accept the conclusion.
I think I'm rejecting the premise that I think there was no never like a lonely God waiting around before deciding like to create. So I guess I would reject the premise that there was no state of the universe or no state of existence where God existed without the universe.
So there was a state of existence where God existed without the universe?
No, I
By rejecting the premise that there was no state of existence where God existed without the universe, you're claiming that there was a state of existence where God existed without the universe.
I guess I'm agreeing with 2.
Okay.
Like,
So then you need to reject 1 or 3.
I reject. Okay, wait. I just have a question real quick. I'm just confused on the wording of this, because this entire argument, the way it seemed, I'm not trying to like call it out or anything. I might be wrong and my mind may be messed up right now, but from the way it seems, is the entire argument is based on the words prior and then subsequent, and like the first, when you put the first creation thing, and
Well, here, we
that
can say, I don't have, there. One state of existence
Okay.
where X does not exist.
Yeah, that would just
Here.
yeah.
So one state of existence where X does not exist, and a different state of existence where X does exist. I understand like that with whatever, if you feel like those. I meant on prior and subsequent in ontological terms, but I can just
Yeah.
remove them so that it's not confusing. So yes, this is still the same definition that I've been using this entire time that you've been flip-flopping on. So now that we've clarified that we're not using temporal language in what we call creation, I need you to reject a premise, or reject the inference rule, or accept that God doesn't exist.
Okay. I accept that there is no state of existence where God existed without the universe, but I would say that God.
Just 1, 2, or 3. You need to say 1, 2, or 3. Which are you rejecting? So your possible answers are 1, 2, 3. I reject the inference rule. I accept the conclusion. So you have 5 things that you can say right now. If you say anything other than those 5 things, then I'm just going to take it that you are not willing to actually have an honest conversation.
I reject 1.
Okay, so it's your position that God could be the creator of the universe without there being a state of, without creation? Because all I did was describe what creation would mean. So now you're doing what I told you that you were doing before, and you're equivocating on the word creation because you're trying to use creation to mean something other than the definition we both agreed on. That's bad faith. That's you being dishonest. I asked you for the definition of creation. I wrote down your definition. I confirmed it with you. You agreed. Then, when it became inconvenient, you tried to wriggle out of it by getting me to replace some of the words. I did it, explained why it wasn't necessary, but I did it anyway. And now you're still trying to wriggle out of it. This is extremely dishonest, Spencer. And you have been very polite and honest up to this point. But it's clear that, and I'm sure that everybody in the audience can tell, it's obvious that you also know that your position is wrong. You know that there's a problem, and you're just too scared to admit it. Or you're too egotistical. I don't think it's ego, because you don't seem like someone with a big ego. So it seems like it's probably fear. Maybe there's some other cause, I don't know, but it's pretty obvious to me and probably everybody else watching that what's happening right now is you realize that I have shown successfully that your position is wrong, and you just don't want to admit it, so you're going to twist yourself into pretzels to try to get out of it.
No,
That's dishonest.
I'm agreeing with you now that I've seen that my position is wrong.
Okay, so God does not exist, right?
No.
No, Spencer, either you're being dishonest and equivocating on the word creation, or God does not exist. Which is it? Are you being dishonest, or does God not exist?
I am going back and saying that my definition of what I thought creation was is now not what I think it is now, about thinking of it more.
Okay, what is the definition of creation?
Then I do not think I could give you a definition of creation.
Okay, now you're being dishonest.
Well, Okay.
That is
Well,
extremely dishonest and bad faith, Spencer. And I will be honest with you, and this probably is going to make me sound like a dad, even though I don't have kids, but I'm really fucking disappointed because I thought that we were having a really good, honest, genuine conversation. And now we get to this point where it's a little bit hard for you, and you just turn into a dishonest, bad faith interlocutor. It's extremely
well,
disappointing.
I've realized that I'm wrong, and I've admitted that I'm wrong.
No,
And
but
I
you're not
understand
admitting that you're wrong, Spencer. You're trying to pretend that you're not wrong by saying that you're using a word that you don't know the definition of. If you don't know the definition of the word create, then you should not be using the word create. So now I need you to tell me, because you don't know what create means, obviously you can't use create, but God is defined as the creator of the universe. Since you have no idea what it would mean to be the creator of the universe, you can't believe in something that is necessarily the creator of the universe. So again, your position leads you to the conclusion that God doesn't exist because you have now defined him out of existence, or undefined him from existence. Because you're saying that God is the creator of the universe, but creator is a meaningless word, and therefore God has this like meaningless property, but that's like a definitional essential property, and God can't have it anymore because the word doesn't even mean anything. So obviously God doesn't exist.
Okay, well, I think we're getting to a point where this is now not going anywhere. And if you want to believe that my logic says I don't believe in a God,
No,
that's okay.
that's not what I said. I said that your position entails that God doesn't exist and you're too scared to admit it. That's what I'm saying. Or you're too egotistical. I don't know. Or maybe there's some other explanation for why you're being dishonest, but you are being dishonest right now.
I would say that my position does not disprove the evidence of a God, but it does not prove it either.
No, you've just seen that your position leads to the conclusion that God does not exist. Your position logically entails God's non-existence. So yes, your position does prove deductively that God doesn't exist, and you just are refusing to admit it. I've shown it to you. I laid it out in black and white. I wrote it down. You got to read it. You saw the whole thing. You saw every bit of it happen. And now you're pretending like it didn't happen and that it doesn't mean what it clearly means. That's extremely dishonest. I should have ended the live almost half an hour ago. I kept going because it seemed like we were having a good conversation. I'm, again, extremely disappointed that you went from being so honest and trying to have a good conversation to then, as soon as you got backed into a corner, instead of, because here's the thing that's so frustrating to me, Spencer.
Mm-hmm.
If you gave me an argument that was like the argument I just gave you, and the conclusion was God does exist, you know what I would do? I would agree, yep, God exists. I would change my position, I would end the live, and I would come back tomorrow debating that God exists.
Mm-hmm.
That is because I have intellectual integrity and honesty. You're displaying to everyone here, to me and everyone else, that you do not have intellectual integrity or honesty. You should be ashamed of that, honestly.
And I agree with you on the fact that my position did lead to there not being an existence of God.
Right. And now you have no way, to get to the existence of a God, because the only way that you could get to the existence of a God is to give a new definition of creation that has nothing to do with what creation actually means. You would have to redefine that word entirely, and at that point, you're not even really talking about the same thing anymore, and it would still just be equivocation. So there's literally no way to save your view, as far as I can see.
There is no way for me to explain my view. That is correct.
No. It's not that there's no way for you to explain your view. It's that there's no way for your view to be logical, to be rational, to be reasonable, to be honest. There's no way for your view to be honest.
Okay.
So it didn't seem like you were a dishonest person, but that seems to be your response when your feet are held to the fire. But again, I think overall, it seems like we did have a good conversation. I'm just really frustrated that it seemed like we were having such a good conversation, and then the only way that you could get out of it was by becoming dishonest. So I do appreciate your time. I'm going to go ahead and drop you down and end the stream.
All right, thank you.
I don't know. That's really frustrating. And again, it makes me feel like a dad to be like, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. Anyway, I did go like half an hour longer than I intended to, because it seemed like that conversation was being productive. But anyway, thank you everybody for hanging out, for interacting, for all the support. I got a bunch of support from everybody. Thank you so much to Rose and Oren and Bear. And can I go through it all? Brain Food, Skeptic Mode, Lupine. What is this? Bogle Acres. I don't know what that Boogle Acres. I don't know. Angry Neeson, Casey, Lupine again, Leslie. Yeah, thank you everybody. Oh, Rat Soup. Thank you so much everybody for your support. Sincerely, I appreciate it. And then, as I always try to say when I end my lives, tomorrow is not guaranteed, people. You don't know how many opportunities you have left to let your family and friends and your loved ones know how much they mean to you. So take every opportunity you have. Give